So yeah, as I said, my name is Vishal. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Voltix. And just to set some frame around on network security in the cloud, a lot of it, what we're going to talk here, has been accelerated by COVID. Now there's an assumption that any application is accessible from anywhere, from any device. So a lot of security efforts have gone in about securing the users, accessing those applications, going to the cloud. A lot of innovation, a lot of investment has gone in there. But that is not what we're going to talk about here. We're going to talk about network security for your applications in the cloud, the applications which are critical for the businesses, which are running in the cloud, which they need to do the business. Now, secondly, we're going to talk about how the network security is changing. But the more important question, is it relevant? I mean, given all the developments in the cloud, given all the innovations that have gone on in the application development platforms, is it relevant? Now, security is, how about network security? So we'll cover that first. And then we'll talk about how things are evolving, what else needs to change, and recommendations based on some of the customer feedback and some of our end user organizations. So yeah, thank you so much for the sponsors. We love the format of this conference. We like it so much that we actually are the sponsors for the conference as well. However, Voltix is not a topic here. We will definitely use the experiences based on working with the end user organizations, the findings, but this talk is not about Voltix. I will not bore you about talking about Voltix. So now, I mean, you're looking at the Ford T in the past. So I think the main question is a very basic question for us is network security. Does it even matter in the cloud? I hear a lot of folks in the cloud world talk about in the cloud, there is no perimeter. Network is untrustworthy. Why defend there? Why not just defend the host? Doesn't the cloud provider secure your network? Now, some folks say applications are built on containers. There's solutions for securing those. So why just do anything in network? So that's a very important question, which I will try to answer first. And you, I know you will kind of flipping to the question. You'll be surprised. I think you won't be. But I'm going to go through some of those arguments as to say why the network security matters in the cloud. And network is the only place to do certain things. So talking to a lot of the folks like you, in the cloud, we talk about what we call as a variable app architecture. A lot of the enterprises use and developers use like VMs, containers, PaaS services, serverless. So, and you get this variability even within like the same group of the same organization. Some of these architectures have their own security. You know, you can customize your security for your PaaS, for your containers, but you know, customizing each of them separately can be expensive, can be slow, and more important than that, how do you get like a consistent security policy across this variable architecture? For example, think about a container. Now you got a solid approach to securing containers, but then how about your non-container environments? So now, second thing is all about layer defense. I know if you're a security person, you would understand this. The core security principle is that no defense is perfect. I mean, every defense is designed by humans. It is fallible. And if there are perfect defenses, you will have only security walls, but no security guards around you, you know? Some people also call it layer defense, defense in depth. From my example, in my past world, like for example, on web applications, you have security done at the edge, and then you have security done close to the application servers and web servers. Now, different policies at different places. Similarly, on top of my mind is like the SolarWinds attack. A trusted source installs a patch via a trusted network on the host. Now, how do you stop those exfiltrations? For example, if you had a layered security, checking your egress filtering, you can stop those, right? So the point I'm making is there are a lot of examples. Network is a common ground. Everything touches it. Also, one of the security principles is that keep the threats as far away from your applications, from your protected resource as possible. Simple example coming from my world is like DDoS. You don't do DDoS at the origin server. You do it close to the edge. So the principle is like, why consume the host resources when you can do security network? It's a long way of saying that the network security is relevant. And I hope I have given you some of the things to talk about as to why even this talk is relevant. And for the rest of the presentation, I want to focus on two things. Talking to a lot of folks, one is about the culture, which is an important part of security, and the other is like tools and technology in the cloud. So I'll break up my presentation into those two parts. So yeah, as we see in the cloud, on the culture side, devs run the show, and they should. Developers are close to the business. They understand what the business needs. It can't be the other way around. Everything has to be in the dev context. The vocabulary we use, the way we talk, the way we operate, the deployment model. We talk about Terraform, we talk about infrastructure as a code, talk about APIs. Similarly, how about the control model? In the past, the security and the reliability used to be in the IT terms, but now these need to be flipped. They have to be in the developer terms. In the crude way of saying, security cannot say no. They have to change the outlook. They can't be like slow control. It's about being progressive. The developers want to make a change. Security should follow the suit and need to adapt. This is a change in some sense. The security folks never thought this way. So security needs to figure out how to work in this new world where the devs run the show. So talking about the roles and the role confusion, in the cloud, we see a lot of cooks, a lot more people involved who can design the infrastructure, spin up the infrastructure, procure it, a lot of fuzziness around those roles. Now, actually, that is good for the business. It's not bad. It makes you more agile. It makes you go fast. But however, there's not a lot of clarity or consistency on what each is doing in terms of security. In the past, they were like predefined roles and control models. These people can do that. Those people can do that. That doesn't work in the cloud anymore. So security teams need to figure out how to adapt to that change. Can't slow things down and make them understand and secure and respond in such an environment. So now the graphic on the slide is kind of the old political statement, like tail wagging the dog. And that used to be the case in the case of security in the past. What we are advocating here is now it's time dog should wag the tail. So now, as I talked about earlier, the network is the common ground. Now, I think I talked about that in the previous slides. The problem or the opportunity, depending on your perspective, is that the common ground is dynamic. Dynamic means like networks are changing. Developers can spin up new VPCs, can go multi-cloud. A lot of the applications are being deployed. Self-serve is almost becoming a norm in the cloud. Now, where the change control is frowned upon, and infrastructure has to be responsive to the needs of the business. So now, what does responsive means? It means the app needs it, the business needs it, now we will do it. The main issue we have seen is that traditional network security is not meant for and not built for a dynamic or the responsive infrastructure. It was rather built for relatively static infrastructure. Since in the past, networks did not change. You can make a lot of assumptions about networks. There was a defined perimeter, and so you can define and deploy, for example, like a firewalls, and the visibility was confined to those defined network security control points. Now, you can sit in the firewall, you can say, I see everything in the firewall, I have the full security and the visibility done. Now, the great example is DNS. In the past, in the on-prem data centers, you can say every DNS goes to port 53, and I can put a firewall and see it. Now, in the cloud, it changes slightly. Being in the network path of like DNS traffic, for example, is not always possible. So in DNS, just to refresh, what happens is that when the applications initiate any connections to an external services, destinations, the first step is to resolve the DNS. Now, in the public cloud, for example, in AWS on Route 53, the cloud provider handles the DNS. Now, any solution that was designed to assume that the DNS always goes through, let's say, a control point will not work. So any solution that was designed to operate and excel in the traditional on-prem data center will not work in the cloud. So you will see these kind of things like new VPCs coming up, new apps coming up. How does the old traditional network security models can keep up? So they cannot provide a coherent solution in terms of visibility, control, and anything like that. So I'm talking about a bit dancing about visibility in the past, right? I mean, I'm kind of hinting it. So I'm saying there's a strong requirement to have visibility in the cloud. If you don't have the visibility, you cannot define your network security. You cannot deploy your network security control points. And that is not used to be in the past. The visibility is important because network is responsive, it's changing and very dynamic. So you can't just have kind of put these control points called firewalls, stare at them and assume everything's all good. So use analogy of kind of have to have this drone on top or kind of like this satellite imagery to see what's going on, what's changing, what routing is changing, and then deploy your network security accordingly. So the key is about visibility. So that is the thing. So the main thing I think I want to question is like the network security we talked about is relevant in the cloud. The key is, does the network security, what we have, is it the right network security? I mean, the security we have is not capable enough. It's not built for a dynamic environment. And one of my favorite analogies here is that if you want to stop a hacker from stealing your bank accounts, would you actually deploy security guards at the bank? So that's what is that what we're facing here? Is that what we are taking the old on-prem data center security and putting it in the cloud? So that's kind of the main thing I'm going to talk about going forward. And the key on security is that the security technology needs to adopt adaptation as the mantra. So now talking about network security, we talked about the culture. Now we're going to talk about tools and technology. What can be reused? Many of the core disciplines of network security, layered defense, consistent policies, things like looking at the packets are still the best practices, but a lot of the implementation has to be redone natively for the cloud environment. And network security in the cloud has to evolve to address the operations and the security challenges in the cloud. If you're going to thrive, adapt in a cloud environment, cloud native is a must in terms of operations. It has to be provision, deploy, scale, up and down. It has to be self-healing. Things like reliability, availability, all the LETs have to be taken care of by the service itself. For example, everything in the cloud is delivered and consumed as a service. Is your network security also like that? Similarly, we talked about security problems. We talked about DNS problem. We talked about the applications egressing out, talking to a SaaS API, talking to a GitHub repo. The connectivity is ubiquitous. So now, for example, I need to get a new code from a repo. I need to talk to a new API. Example of SolarWinds, I need to go and get a patch. So the old data center approaches based on a bunch of assumptions that networks are static, apps don't really go out of their perimeter and talk too much. You can't take those and achieve those goals in the public cloud. So enterprises need to adopt and develop solutions that are born in the cloud for the cloud with the correct set of assumptions in the cloud. So main thing is, as I said, they have to be operationally very effective. And in terms of security, they have to be working in the right assumptions. So now we talked about adaptation as a mantra. How do we get adaptation? And I'm talking about that in the past. Comprehensive visibility is the key to the adaptation. So visibility in the cloud, if we talk to a lot of the folks, it means about like things cloud security posture management. They're called CSPM, like what's out there, what's vulnerable, and tell me for security folks, like what's going on, what do I need to have, what do I need to fix. What we're talking about here is a little bit different. Talking about network security. So I'm talking about visibility in terms of discovering your network security gaps, discovering your changes, discovering your new applications, new networks, and then defend them in a real-time way. So to find the network security gaps, it's more like what's out there, what is the business deploying, what kind of applications, are they like trust boundaries, PCI, non-PCI, who talks to whom, what kind of traffic they're generating. So you need to understand that constantly, not like just once and then done. So it's all about understanding those and then deploying your real-time protection, deploying your network security to adapt and defend. So some of the recommendations in terms of what we are seeing with talking to our end users, talking to some of the customers. So in some sense, what we see is like in the cloud with a lot of the customers is kind of a concept of what we call as a single pass operational model. By the way, single pass is more like a networking term. In the past, for my life, single pass is to mean like handle all things once, handle all the processing, all the packets, everything once. Now in the operational model wise, single process wise, the goal is that find things, find resources, what's happening in environment, deploy your control points accordingly and defend effectively. So not like manual way of doing things. So from a tool and tech point of view, it's about discovering things constantly, deploying your control points, network control points automatically, accordingly, and then protecting those applications, those VPCs, those VNets from inbound threats, exfiltration. So using the traditional network security tools, it was all a manual process. And the customers now are asking for network security to be done in minutes and not across like days and hours. For example, one of the real customer story we have is like a healthcare SaaS company. Their DevOps engineering team was able to automate and deploy all their network security control across their tenants, their VPCs, and reduce the time from like 7 days to 7 minutes. So they want to have network security as part of the CI/CD process. I mean, people probably haven't heard about deploying network security as part of CI/CD. CI/CD is all about applications, some of the app security. Now, the key is that the network security has to be done in that way. And that's the only way you can adapt and secure in the dynamic environment. So now the options you have is you can take the traditional network security, and we talked about it is either not effective in terms of security or we slow things down, and you go to the older model. And now the other option is enterprises do no network security and rely solely on the host. And then you abandon your layered security. We talked about it. Rely on one approach, and that approach is fallible. Then and that breaks, then I'm done. So that's what we are seeing with a lot of our clients, our customers, and talking to the folks like you. So now wrapping it up, pretty much we talked about network security in the cloud, we talked about its relevance, we talked about that it needs change. So now the key is like, and the question for the audience is like, where is your org on this? Has the culture shifted yet? How are the developers running the show? Is a dog wagging the tail, or is there still work to be done? Has security culture become more adaptive in its view, or is still kind of controlling in its view? And the second thing is about tech and tools. They need to change too. And the two sides to it, as I talked about, operational, the network security has to feel like cloud, like networking, storage, compute, everything is like a service, it's like always available, just click of a button. Is your network security like an operational side? Is it like that? Now, on the security side, as I said, network security needs a healthy boost of visibility. The visibility is not just confined to the control points. Visibility is like sitting on top, seeing what's changing in your infrastructure, what's coming up, what apps are running, and all those things we've been talking about in last 20 minutes or so. So is that something understood by your teams? So these are some of the questions we've been working with our customers and these organizations, and love to talk to any of you more, have a debate on this. You can connect me on LinkedIn. I'm always there. I'm also available in the virtual rooms today. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. And if there are any questions, we'd love to get them now.
Thank you so much, Vishal. There aren't any questions in Umbrella yet. If anyone has questions, please feel free to share. Anything that came to mind while you were listening to Vishal. I just wanted to mention that we will be breaking into a networking session in about 5 minutes, if anyone wants to join the networking session. And then in about 10 minutes, there'll be another talk on this track. Security is from Mars, observability is from Venus, how teams use the same data, which sounds like an interesting talk. Yeah, thanks, Vishal. It was really great to learn. It's definitely a lot of information to take in there.
So
thank you,
Vishal,
thank you. Yes.
So Vishal, how is the network security between Earth and Mars, or Earth and Venus? Because we're going to talk about that next.
Yeah, I think there is always a network. There's always something going on. We are going to the Mars. Network is involved. I mean, how do you connect? It's some kind of connectivity is only via network. There's a pipe which you can't see.
I love it. I love it. I really appreciated the insight that you had about the common ground being dynamic. It's always changing, and really working together as a team is one of the things that's the most important.
Yep.
Yeah.
We have a quick question on Umbrella. Why not have an SRE with security as focus? Was the question audible? Do you want me to repeat?
Yeah, sure. This for me?
Yes, yeah. Sorry, Vishal, okay. It's for you. Yeah. From John, he's asking, why not have an SRE with security as focus?
Okay, why not SRE who is security as, sorry, I didn't get that. Can you elaborate? What is the meaning of that? Like, is it?
I'm presuming security as the skill. So how you would have a security team.
Oh, yeah. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. So no, yeah, of course. So as we talk about the DevSecOps, like security and reliability are actually one and same thing now. I mean, they are like two sides of a coin in terms of the SRE roles. In the past, as I said, the IT was controlling that, right? Reliability and security. Now in the new world, where things are fast, where developers are coming in and they're doing things, they're on the show. The reliability is definitely owned by SREs. That's kind of very well known. Now, the reliability also doesn't mean that you can be insecure, right? You can have, so the security and reliability has to be part of the SREs. And that's what my talk was about, that the SREs, they always talk about security and application security, but that's great. But where's network? How does network security fit in? I mean, if that things fall on the host side, as I gave example of SolarWinds, then what's the next level of defense? And I talk about that. And network security has to be like layered, has to be there in the cloud. That was the one thing I said. And second thing I said was that in terms of culture and the tools and tech, we see changing. So you can't just take the tools built for the on-premise data center side and take it to the cloud. So SREs is something to think about. And if you have more questions, yeah, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. We'd love to have a debate and connect.